All right, hey, it's July 23rd, bringing you your Lake of the Ozarks fishing report. We try to do this once a week. Sometimes we go a week and a half, 2 weeks. Kind of this time of year, a lot of things don't change, so we don't put out a weekly report if things aren't changing. So things are changing a little bit right now. The water temp is heating up. Today I had about 86 out there today. And next week it's supposed to be up in the 90s, upper 90s, so it's probably going to creep up a little bit more. So a lot of times once that water really heats up, fish will start moving. We'll talk about that. But first, the water level is 658.9. So we'll say 659. So it's right there at summer pool, a little bit about 6-8 inches less than full pool, but it's pretty much summer pool right now. They've been running a lot of current today, 36,000, and actually all week. So there's a lot of current going through the water, which is helping position some of these fish and kind of still keep them bunched up a little bit, with that current. Have been catching some fish, starting to get into some brush piles, but we're still catching them right out on main lake points and around some main lake docks. As long as they're running current, we're going to have the fish are going to do one of two things. They're either going to go relate to a main lake point and some fashion, either on the bottom or around some main lake docks, suspended around main lake docks, or they'll go to the very backs of some of these creeks. And I don't know if it's because you've got bluegill beds in the very back, you got some shad moving back there. Sometimes you get rain or creeks, and when they're pulling a lot of water, it pulls a lot of that water out of them creeks, which puts a little bit of current, more oxygen, maybe a little cooler water even in the very back. So not sure why exactly, but sometimes in the summer, and usually starting about now, you'll get a lot of fish in the very backs, and 3 foot of water. So, it's good that we've got main lake fish going on, and then we got some shallow stuff going on. If you're fishing main lake, like this morning we had a trip, and we fished main lake till about 9:30, about 10 o'clock, and the big boats come out, the skiers, the jet skis, everything, and it gets pretty rough out there. You can still catch them out there. But you just gotta, it gets rough. The water's a lot of big waves. So if you don't mind that, you can stay out there all day and catch them. As far as lures, same stuff. On main lake points, we're just dragging like a 10-inch power worm, either in the brush or just off these points towards drop-offs, and just keying that, maybe 8 foot all the way out to 25 foot some days. You just kind of see each day. Some days they're shallower, and then some days they get out deeper, especially when that sun gets up and it gets pretty rough out there. I think them fish just don't want to fight them waves and the sun and everything else, and they'll back out and get out on these little drops on these points, where kind of like always, if you get a point with 15, 18 foot of water and it drops off into the channel or drops off a ledge, that seems to be where you get a lot of your bites. They'll kind of stack up there. Those ledges kind of divert a lot of this current that's coming through the lake, and fish will just naturally set up on those breaks and those drops, and just kind of use that current as it brings stuff to them. We're just rigging it on a quarter, or even a quarter, a half, or even a 3/4 ounce slide weight, tungsten with a 5/0 hook, and then a 10-inch power worm. It's just kind of a basic setup. Thrown in on 17-pound test. Fluorocarbon, always on that. And another bait been throwing. Actually, Denise has been throwing this a little more than me. A friend of ours, Dana Zander, kind of turned us on it. It's just this mid-sized brush hog. If you haven't seen it out, they've had the full-size brush hog and the baby brush hog. Well, this one here is mid-size, and it says right on the package, it says mid-size brush hog. So we're just throwing it in green pumpkin candy, kind of short supplies on some things, so whatever you can get color, just a natural color. And we're just rigging it on one of Crocgator's 5/16 Shaky Pros, and just throwing it out there and working it kind of like the worm, just bouncing it along the points, those ledges, maybe around some rocks. It's just bulkier bait, got a lot of movement, and for whatever reason, they seem to want it, and they seem to bite it. Been pretty consistent here lately on that. The jig, obviously, just a jig more so, like say, just a 1/2 ounce zapper with some sort of little swim tail, a little grub or something on the back of it, or maybe our swamp bug tail, and just swim in around some main lake docks alongside of it. Maybe let it drop down when them fish are up off the bottom feeding, or chasing shad, pushing shad to the tops around these main lake points and stuff. You can just swim a jig alongside them docks and catch several fish. You know, and you'll catch some good ones like that too. As far as that's for size, if you're going for numbers, a couple different things. Numbers, obviously, you know, the main lake stuff, if there's a lot of current, you can just rig you up the old Pearl Fluke, Super Fluke. I say Super Fluke, everything's a fluke. But I've been throwing this one here. It's by Hogg's Custom Tackle. Just look them up on Facebook. It's called, it's HOWGZ, I believe it is. I should know, but he actually poured some custom ones for me. Pearl, they're a little fatter, a lot softer, and they really dart and move around in the water a lot better than like, you know, just the Zoom Super Fluke, which still works, and I use them a lot. But this other little custom one is just a softer bait, got a little more action, and it being softer, it moves and darts around a lot better. So I've been throwing that one a lot on trips, you know, for numbers when things get slow and you just want to catch some numbers. But we'll catch plenty keepers too, you know, 15, 16-inch fish. You'll catch some of them 3-pound Kentuckies. You know, that's always fun. We're just rigging it on that fluke. Just rig it on a 5/0 Gamakatsu wide gap, and just hang you a little number 4 treble hook on there, so it'll shake and rattle, and you get them fish to come out and swipe. We're throwing it on. I throw it on a jerkbait rod. You know, so pretty light rod, 8 or 10-pound test. Fluorocarbon on that. You want that to sink, keep that bait down a little bit. But that one, you know, for numbers, you know, you can throw a fluke. You can throw a fluke all day around docks, main lake docks. Some guys you throw around wave breaks. Wave breaks are getting beat up pretty much, so it's kind of hard to catch them there anymore. Another bait here we're starting to throw, and it's catching a lot of fish, is the drop shot. If you never drop shot, it's a really simple way to catch both fish off of the bottom and fish suspended. You know, and it's just what it is you just have your drop shot weight on the bottom of your line. This one here is a 1/4, and then you've got about 18 inches, 2 foot of line, and then you've got like this one here. It's a number 6. It's just a split shot drop shot hook, number 6, and Gamakatsu hook. And basically, what you do to do this is, if you don't know how to throw it, have it thrown the Palomar knot. You basically throw this on a Palomar knot. You run your line, just YouTube it if you haven't seen it. But you run your line through the eye of the hook, and then you run it back through, and then your tag line, which is the offset of the line, you let it hang a lot farther than you normally would. And you let it hang off, you know, 2 foot, however far you want your leader. You go ahead and tie your overhand knot, cinch it up, and then you got your hook up here about 18 inches, 2 foot. You've got this long tag line, and then that's where you want to hook on your drop shot weight down here. So it's a real simple setup. And then, you know, with that number 6 drop shot hook, you just take and you nose hook your worm. And you don't want to go into it like Texas rig or something. I guess you could Texas rig it. And we actually have, like with a number 1/0 hook, if you're fishing around brush, you can Texas rig it. Or a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just kind of what you call nose hook the little 4-inch finesse worm. You just come in about a 1/2 inch and go through it like this, and then that thing's just hanging on there. And you can see how it's just kind of hanging just freely there, And so when you throw this bait out and it goes to the bottom, if you're fishing on the bottom, you just let it hit the bottom and you bounce that weight on the bottom, and this worm's up here just free, moving around, and it's just deadly. It's really good for numbers. I mean, you just catch fish all day on it. But you'll catch fish from, man, 10 inches to, 4 or 5 pounds on that. It's big fish will grab that too. So it's a good way to catch a lot of fish, a lot of action. So it just throw it up on points, gravelly points, rocky points, and just kind of work it down. You can throw alongside docks where there might be some brush, and just work it alongside them docks where that worm's kind of up, elevated for some of these suspended fish ain't laying on the bottom. Another way is main lake docks, big docks. Just throw it up about midway up that dock and just let that thing free fall. Just down through the water column where it kind of pendulums down towards the front of that dock. And as that thing's falling, like say if you're sitting in, I don't know, you can be sitting in 35 to 50 foot of water and throwing this bait up alongside these docks, and just let it free fall down and really watch your line. If that line gets down there about 10, 15 foot and it just goes slack on you, he's on there. The fish is on there. A lot of them will just sit there, and when that thing comes by, they'll grab it. So they won't bite real hard. You just really got to watch your line. That's where, like here, I've got a leader on here. I've got 10-pound fluorocarbon leader on here. And I've got about 12 foot, 15 foot leader, and then I've got that yellow braid. And that, which is 15, or sometimes I'll go 20-pound braid on these spin around reel setup. But, with that yellow line, when you throw it up alongside them docks and you're letting it free fall, you can really pick up that line and watch that line as it's falling. And that line just goes slack on you. It doesn't just keep falling. If you just kind of hold your rod tip high and lower it as that bait's falling, you can really pay attention to it. And then as it should be falling, you're sitting in 40 foot, it drops 10 foot and the line goes slack. That's your indication that you got a bite. So you really got to watch the line on this technique if you are fishing it for suspended fish. You can sit on top of brush piles with a rig like this. If you've got some, like the live scope electronics, you can basically sit on top of these fish, throw it out there, watch your bait go down, and watch that weight go down into that brush and kind of shake it and keep that worm just above that brush, and then fish will come out and hit it. You can do the same thing along dock braces, big cables that come off of docks. You can see those cables out there. You can throw past the cable, bring your bait up till it kind of hits that cable or that weight. I like to kind of almost hook that weight on that cable and let that weight kind of slide down that cable, going the whole way, and that worm's out there about 18 inches, and then fish suspend on them cables. So you just let it go all the way down that cable until you intersect where the fish are suspended, and you can sit there and catch multiple fish like that on that drop shot. So for numbers, the drop shot, the fluke, still a little chug bug. Another bait been thrown, actually Denise has come up with this one too, is the whopper plopper. She's throwing the smaller whopper plopper. I believe this is a 90 whopper plopper, just in black. We threw it this morning, caught a few fish on it, but the kind of key to this is just maybe some flatter banks and throw it right up to the bank. I mean right up to the bank. If you throw 3 foot off the bank, you're not going to catch the fish that are there, because the fish are actually about 3 to 6 foot off of the bank. So if you hit 3 or 6 foot off the bank, you're going to spook them, and you're already passing. These fish are sitting there looking towards the bank, waiting for bluegill or shad or something coming off the bank. And if your bait hits on the bank and you bring it out, that's when you get your bite. So just make sure you hit right up on the bank, or even parallel the bank, maybe 2 foot off of the bank. And that's been catching a lot of fish, and they've actually been catching a lot of keepers on that too. So that's first, maybe 2 hours in the morning, once you get a bunch of big waves crashing in and stuff, that kind of goes away and the sun gets high, then they head out to docks or maybe down in that brush. So, fishing's still been good, real consistent. The only thing that changes is it seems like their feeding habits. Some mornings they'll bite right away and you'll catch them real good. This morning, that first hour and a half, almost 2 hours, was pretty slow. I mean, we had we had a few fish, but then once we got around 8 o'clock or so, it picked up, and then from 8:30 to 10, it was pretty good. The fish, like some days you'll notice the shad are suspended down a ways, and the fish aren't as active like where you want to catch them. But if the shad are up working the surface, the fish become real, active, and they start feeding. You'll see them right now. You'll see them busting shad out in the middles. You'll see big schools of bass busting them shad. And there's a lot of largemouth Kentuckies in there. Been catching a lot of white bass out there too. So if you see them busting, you can just stop and throw to them with any sort of topwater bait, fluke, even swim a jig through them and catch those fish too. That's the evening bite. The evening bite's been really good. When I say evening, say 6:30 to midnight, 6:30 to 11. It's been real good. It's probably been the best bite. Denise and I fished this little Tuesday nighter out of Shawnee that Nick Alt puts on every week. So if you're down here on Tuesday or are looking for another tournament, it's out of Shawnee Bend on Tuesday evenings. Good little group of guys. It's just a fun deal. You go out for 4 hours and catch. It was 4 fish limit. So you go out and me and Denise fished it last week, and I don't know, we probably caught 9 or 10 keepers in that 4 hours, and it was a lot of fun. So just something else to do in the middle of the week. I know they've got the Wednesday nighter out of PB2. There's one out of Kaufman. I forget when that one is. Thursday maybe. And then Cook is putting one out of Shawnee Bend or Larry Gale. We have to look to see, but pretty much if you want to fish a tournament in the evenings, there's one to fish. And these are just fun little tournaments. Not a lot of money, maybe $40, $50 you get in the thing. It's just more about fun and getting out and talking with friends and just whatever. It's just a good time. Or if you're just down fishing and it's rough during the day or it gets hot, just wait till the evening. Maybe fish the first 3 hours in the morning, 4 hours. It gets rough, go in, have some fun, and then go back out before dark. Right before dark, where the fish really kind of feed really good. And it's the exact same baits. You can fish points, bluff ends with all these baits I talked about. And you're going to catch them. You're going to catch them pretty good. And, there's some big fish being caught. I think the Wednesday nighter, I don't know what exactly it took, but usually takes, 16 to 20 pounds, and there'll be several 4s, 5s, a couple 6s, so the fish are biting. That's, that's out of PB2, so you can stay pretty close to PB2 most of the time. From the Glazed Bridge down to PB2, maybe up a couple miles. Everyone knows that's where a lot of fish are let go. The fish, some of them stick around, some of them swim off, but there's a lot of them around there, and they'll come up fairly shallow or come up and feed in the evenings and early mornings. So there's definitely a big concentration of fish in the glaze on a lot of those points. So you can fish in the glaze, and if you don't have anywhere else or don't know where to start. Watercolor, the glaze is real clean, pretty clear. The gravish looks good. The Osage, it's okay. It's fairly clear, stained up around, you get to Ling Creek area, and then once you head on up the Osage, it's fairly stained, not quite dirty, but there's a lot of water coming from Truman, and a lot of dirty water coming down. The Niagara's fairly clean, looks real good. Little bit of debris floating way up the river arms, just because they're pulling all that current. Nothing major, nothing to really be worried about. But that's pretty much the conditions. What's going on down here? Boy, I don't know what else I can tell you other than same. One thing I can tell you that won't change throughout these reports for the next 2 months is there's a lot of people down here. It's rough. When I say rough, it's busy. It'll get rough when it gets, when it's sunny and the boats get out there. So, guys, till next week or a week or so, we'll keep you up to date. Till then, we'll see you.